charity turns into tragedy.
Saw the guy, his flesh looked really badly burnt. It was just a horrible experience altogether.
We saw a big flash and the guy fell down from the bucket.
4 firefighters shot just moments after helping out college students with the popular Ice Bucket Challenge as one of the men fights for his life.
We pray over those firefighters. We pray over those families. We pray over our CU students.
Students gather hoping their prayers will be heard. Tonight, team coverage from a close-knit campus to the hospital where the men are being treated. This special edition of Wave 3 News at 11 starts right now. Good evening. I'm Shannon Cogan.
And I'm Scott Reynolds. These 4 firefighters started out the day like any other, but in an instant, their lives would be changed. Captain Tony Grider, Alex Quinn, Alex Johnson, and Captain Steve Mars were helping students at Campbellsville University take part in the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Their ladder truck getting too close to a power line. That caused an electric arc to jolt through the truck. Witnesses describe those next moments.
And there's another guy who's standing there, and he was motioning for help. Everybody like, come help, and there's another explosion. So they were both down in the bucket.
And out of nowhere, we heard a huge explosion, and at the same time saw sparks coming from the rear of the fire truck.
Grider, a 16-year veteran of the department who once won EMT of the Year, and the 22-year-old Quinn, a part-time firefighter, were airlifted to University Hospital in Louisville with serious injuries. Grider remains in critical condition tonight. Quinn has been upgraded to fair condition. The 2 other firefighters, Steve Mars and Alex Johnson, were taken to Taylor Regional Hospital, and they were released. Our team coverage continues here tonight. Wave 3 News reporter Theo Keith live from University Hospital, where those firefighters are being treated.
But first, Wave 3 News reporter Scott Atkins is live in downtown Campbellsville tonight. And Scott, a moving vigil was held for these injured firefighters.
An emotional evening not only here at the firehouse, but across Campbellsville, where neighbors are focusing on the firefighters' recovery, not the accident. The masses from this college town pause to worship.
In Jesus' blood and righteousness.
And pray for 4 firefighters injured just a few blocks away earlier in the day.
We pray over those firefighters. We pray over those families. We pray over our CU students.
Their words echo throughout Campbellsville from Staff Lawn, where neighbors joined students like Julie Smith, who organized a vigil that attracted the community.
It just kind of popped in my mind to, I'm a part of this college campus, so I just figured, we need to get together and just pray about this.
The scene still fresh and painful for so many students, like freshman Ty Lee.
All of a sudden, I heard a big bang, and then that's when the power failed, and I hopped up out of bed, and everybody was sprinting down the steps to go outside. Then that's when we got rolled up onto the ambulance and saw the guy, his flesh looked really badly burnt. It was just a horrible experience altogether.
Others made it a priority to stand in solidarity with the community.
It's an encouragement that we get to come out and pray as a community for each other, and it's awesome to see just people coming together. This is a very family community, church, school, and county, and so it's just really been a good blessing to see.
Yeah, it's a show of support from our community and from the campus for the firefighters who were injured today. Just such a tragic accident, and we continue to pray for them and their families and pray that God comfort and heal them.
The fire department is right across the street from Campbellsville University. Often we hear close-knit community. Right across the street, those words never so true than today. Live in Campbellsville, Scott Atkins, Wave 3 News.
Thanks, Scott. And local firefighters keeping vigil tonight for the 2 injured comrades at University Hospital.
Let's go live to Wave 3 News reporter Theo Keith. He's been out there all day, and what everyone wants to know tonight, Theo, is how are those 2 firefighters there doing?
Shannon, I just checked with hospital staff. Tony Grider is still in critical condition. Alex Quinn in fair. Fellow firefighters and family members will be with them in the burn unit around the clock. 2 Campbellsville firefighters flown to University Hospital in Louisville on helicopters like this one after a fun charity event goes terribly wrong, leaving the firemen burned.
I think the first 24 to 48 hours are critical in a severe burn. With burns such as these, the you can anticipate a pretty prolonged hospital course. Okay, this is a long process to get better, probably multiple operations, etc.
It was an emotional scene as family, friends, and firefighters from Louisville and Highview came to the hospital.
My heart just sank, you know, whether you think it's serious, whether they're going to live or not or whatever, that doesn't matter. It's just that you have fellow firefighters that are injured. And I'll be honest with you, I stopped and said a prayer for them.
Highview's deputy chief brings snacks and support.
We're going to go around through there.
Remembering a death in his own department years ago, local firefighters have worked out a schedule to keep vigil around the clock.
But we don't, not pushy, but just having the uniforms and the auxiliary here having their presence here just lets them know we're here for them.
In the burn unit, doctors hydrate patients and guard against infection. The most critical time is the first day or two.
After about 24 to 48 hours, we really have a better sense of how deep the burns are, because the depth of burn really affects what we do from there.
We have learned tonight that Grider, who is 41 years old, is a 16-year veteran of the department. As for Quinn, he is 22. Doctors say that he is in much more stable condition. He's a part-time firefighter. If their conditions change overnight, you'll hear the latest on Wave 3 News Sunrise. For now, live at University Hospital, Theo Keith, Wave 3 News.
In Campbellsville, we caught up with one of Tony Grider's friends, Eddie Barden. He says he believes Grider will pull through this.
But Tony, if anybody in this world that I know that can pull through this, Tony Grider's the man.
And one Grider won EMT of the Year. He said, it's easy to come to work when you love what you do. The firefighters did not have to come into direct contact with the power line to get shocked.
At a news conference today, Campbellsville's police chief explaining that getting close to a live wire could be just as dangerous as touching one.
If you get within a distance of 3 or 4 feet, the energy that surrounds the high voltage wire will actually arc over onto another object, and in this case being the personnel occupying the bucket.
And it goes without saying it can be high stakes dealing with high voltage. Today, we spoke with people at Salt River Electric about the amount of training required for electric crews and first responders. There, it takes 6.5 years training to become a first-class lineman. Along with first aid and CPR for linemen, videos and other materials teach them and first responders to be aware of their surroundings.
It's very dangerous, and usually when accidents happen, they're often tragic, so we do everything we can in order to help make the people in our community feel a little more safe around electricity.
Salt River Electric has worked in the past with fire departments in Spencer and Nelson counties, in addition to offering outreach programs, including in local schools.
And late tonight, the ALS Association gave us a short statement about today's tragedy in Campbellsville. It read, "Our hearts go out to the injured firefighters and their families. Our thoughts will remain with them during this difficult time." And in less than a month, the ALS Association has raised more than $40 million, 20 times plus what they'd raised last year at this time, using these viral challenge videos.
And you've likely seen them all over social media. It starts with someone accepting the challenge to dump a bucket of ice water on his or her head. And then that person then challenges others to pour ice water on their heads or make a donation to the ALS Foundation. The ALS Association has raised $42 million since July 29th. In that window last year, the association had raised just $2 million. We will continue to update the firefighters' conditions on wave3.com and also on Wave 3 News Sunrise. And now let's turn to the forecast. No break from the heat even after the sun goes down.
Yeah, and it's that same heat that could upset your plans, maybe with some pop-up showers. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett tells us when those might hit us.
Yeah, it's a small chance for a passing shower or thunderstorm, but a guarantee for the heat and humidity across Kentuckiana. We hit 90 again today. We're 10 degrees cooler. It's 80 outside, if that makes it feel any better to you. Most areas in the 70s. Take a look at the radar view. Nothing in our 29 counties, but you don't have to look too far to the north. Indianapolis seeing a thunderstorm. In fact, it's a severe thunderstorm moving through the metro of Indy. That's going to track down to the south, and it could clip the northeast part of our viewing area. So places like North Vernon, moving up into Jennings and Ripley counties, you could see some of this rain, but it's going to be weakening and fading away as we move through the overnight hours tonight. Our forecast tomorrow looks like this: 74 for the bus ride in, 94 for the return home. That heat index up there closer to 100. Heat advisory, and it doesn't end tomorrow. I'll let you know how long that's extended coming up in just a few.
Thanks, Kevin. She was looking at her cell phone when she was supposed to be watching the road.
And that mistake killed a woman in Bullock County tonight. The Bullock County Sheriff says a woman drove directly into the path of a dump truck. This was near the Jim Beam Stillhouse on Highway 245. She was looking at her phone, police say, when she pulled out in front of that truck. That truck could not avoid her Ford Focus and slammed into the side of that car. She was pronounced dead at the scene.
The striping on roads will resume for those bike lanes. After 2 meetings on the issue, Louisville Metro Council gave the go-ahead to the Public Works Department. Members had stopped it for a while because they wanted to get information about costs and also the impact on traffic. President Jim King is asking for a way, though, to monitor the success of these lanes in the future. The city has completed 48.5 miles of biking trails in a year and a half and plans to add 40 additional miles this fiscal year.
Well, you still can't serve it there legally except in a restaurant, but Shelby County is about to give one of Kentucky's hotter-selling bourbons its first permanent home.
Shovels hit dirt this morning for what will be a $115 million distillery stretching across 300 acres. A dozen warehouses for barrels with room to grow. It'll produce 1.8 million gallons of whiskey, most of it Bullet bourbon, but some of it new brands that we haven't even heard of yet.
We will be making stuff that nobody's ever heard of. Maybe we hadn't even thought of it yet.
You were a place that was welcoming, and you were a place that had the kind of workforce that's going to make them a success.
With the new bourbon, 30 permanent jobs will be created once the distillery opens.
Well, the Heat might have some Ironman competitors changing their plans, and you might have to change your traffic pattern this weekend.
I prayed that God would help me be faithful, even in my illness.
Prayer and great care. An American doctor cured of the Ebola virus.
And we're streaming this in every newscast live on wave3.com and the Wave 3 mobile app.
Honored with the Edward R. Murrow Award for Overall Excellence. You're watching Wave 3 News.
An American doctor once near death from Ebola walks out of the hospital today.
Dr. Kent Brantley was discharged nearly 3 weeks after walking into an isolation unit at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta. He contracted the virus while treating patients in Liberia.
Today is a miraculous day. I'm thrilled to be alive, to be well, and to be reunited with my family.
The other missionary discharged with Ebola, Nancy Wrightball, was discharged on Tuesday. Her husband says, though, that she is still very weak. The CDC and Emory physicians say these patients no longer have the virus in their system and pose no health risk.
The State Department says Islamic State militants demanded more than $132 million to free journalist James Foley in emails to Foley's family. That revelation after his beheading is sparking debate whether governments should pay ransom to free hostages. U.S. policy prohibits the government negotiating with terrorists, but some allies in Western Europe and the Persian Gulf have paid to free citizens. The U.S. and Britain argue that only encourages more kidnappings. In Missouri, National Guard troops are now leaving Ferguson.
Governor Jay Nixon ordered them to begin withdrawing from this city where there's been unrest since a white police officer fatally shot Michael Brown, an unarmed black teenager, on August 9th. But every night since then, there have been protests, people calling for justice. Authorities have arrested at least 163 people in the protest area since Brown's death. And while the National Guard is gone, hundreds are still out on the streets tonight calling for justice. NBC News reporter Leanne Gregg is on the ground with more.
The Missouri National Guard is moving out. Smaller crowds, fewer flare-ups the last 2 nights.
We are hopeful that they will have another strong and peaceful night.
Violent protests and confrontations caused the governor to bring in the Guard Monday to protect the police command center.
We will continue to operate under that state of emergency. We've got a number of actions that are going to happen over the next few days that could re-spark. These are challenging times, and I will work to continue as long as necessary.
And now attention turns to the investigations, a call for justice and for the removal of the local prosecutor.
I am here today.
Protesters presented 70,000 petition signatures asking St. Louis County Prosecutor Robert McCullough to step down, claiming bias because several of his relatives worked for the police, including his father, who was killed in the line of duty.
It made me a very fierce advocate for victims of violence, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of their status in life.
At the same time, a federal civil rights investigation is moving forward. A personal visit this week to Ferguson from the U.S. Attorney General.
This Attorney General and this Department of Justice stands with the people of Ferguson.
After close to 2 weeks filled with times of turmoil, there's hope for more quiet nights. Leanne Gregg, NBC News, Ferguson, Missouri.
A St. Louis County grand jury began hearing testimony in that civil rights case yesterday. A decision is not expected until mid-October.
$2 million. That's how much the winning ham at the state fair went for today. The tradition dates back to 1964. Bidders offer their highest prices for the fair's grand champion ham. Both the ham and the money going to charity. The auction also draws politicians in with Kentucky's hot Senate race. Both Senator Mitch McConnell and his challenger, Allison Lundergan Grimes, were on hand. Grimes and McConnell will debate October 13th on KET. And I believe it was Republic Bank and Junior Bridgman that were getting together on that.
And Steve Wilson as well
also,
from Hermitage Farm.
Yeah, all three of them getting together, I guess, for that $2 million bid. That's pretty
well
impressive.
done. Yeah, isn't that terrific? And I'm sure it's delicious, huh? Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett is joining us right now, although I've never tasted it, have you?
What's that work out to a pound, I wonder?
Yeah,
you know?
really, a lot.
Hey, half-price weather forecast for you tonight, by the way. 80 degrees here in the city. That's pretty warm. Corydon, you're right there with us, as well as Hardinsburg. Look at Litchfield, 81. It's rare that the suburbs are warmer than us here in the city. That's the case tonight in some places, though. A very warm, humid air mass in place. We have the heat advisory. Kicks in tomorrow and lasts through the weekend. The heat wave is on. In fact, it started yesterday at 90, today at 90, tomorrow 94, low to mid 90s all the way into the middle part of next week at least. Heat index between 100 and 105. It's going to be pretty miserable outside if you have to be out. Drink lots of water. Don't forget about the pets. Bring them in when you can, or at least make sure they have plenty of water, and check on the elderly. Outside tonight, we have a clear sky in places. Clouds off to our north. It's 80 degrees. Feels like 84, though. Those winds continue out of the south. I can update the high temperature for us here. 90 degrees for our high, 10 degrees off of the record. It's still 90 plus back out west. Dallas, Texas, 91 right now. 80 Indianapolis, 80 Louisville and Nashville, right along the I-65 corridor. Cluster of thunderstorms moving through central Indiana. I'm going to zoom into these. They're going to move through Indianapolis, as they are now, with some strong winds, some gusty rain, and all in all, it's not that bad of a storm. The warning's been allowed to expire. Much of that will weaken by the time it reaches the northern part of our viewing area, so we're not anticipating any severe weather anywhere across our 29 counties, but a few places in, say, Lawrence, Ripley, Jennings County could see a brief shower. Southerly winds funnel in the heat once again for tomorrow. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible, but the storm chance over the next several days very low. The temperatures very high, with plenty of humidity rolling up in here as well. Our overnight low tonight, 74, partly cloudy. It's warm, it's humid. It's just kind of sticky out there. Tomorrow, another hot, humid day. If you have to be outside, note that the heat advisory kicks in tomorrow. That heat index is going to push up closer to 100. 20% storm chance tomorrow. We'll carry that through the weekend. We'll bump it to a 30% chance by next Thursday. I want to break down a couple of things and point out to you in the 7-day forecast here that tomorrow kicks off high school football for so many areas. So our touchdown Friday night forecast shows those temperatures still at 7 o'clock in the 90s. It's going to be a hot start. We'll slowly fall into the 80s. Now on Sunday we have the Ironman competition around. Likewise, it's a hot forecast. We'll be in the mid-70s to begin the swim. As we go through the bike ride, temperatures climb through the 80s. We'll be into the 90s for the run, and only a 20% chance for an isolated thunder shower during the weekend there. So kind of a hot, humid, very summer-like forecast for us.
And I checked, Kevin, that's a 16-pound ham, about $130,000 per pound, in case you were wanting to maybe buy 1 pound of it.
I think I've heard you order that before. Like, I'll have that.
That's not a Kroger
pound
special,
of that.
I don't think. Yeah, all right.
Thanks, Kev. Well, you will see more than 2,000 athletes competing in Louisville's 2014 Ironman Triathlon this weekend. Today, the men and women who are taking part got to start checking in at the Galt House. That's the fun part, huh?
Yeah,
it's a 2.4-mile swim, then a 112-mile bike ride, and then the marathon, 26 miles plus. The people taking on that course range in age from 18 to 77 years. They're from 32 countries and 49 states. Norton Hospital, an Ironman sponsor, busy getting together supplies they know the crews will need.
Last year we had about 65 cases. That's 12 to a case of normal saline. We've raised that to 72 this year just to give a little extra buffer because of the heat.
And because of the competition, you'll see a lot of streets closed throughout Louisville and Oldham County on Sunday. If you want to see a list of street closures and where the athletes will be, log on to wave3.com. Click on the I Saw It on a Wave 3 News tab. 77 and going to finish that Ironman, I'll bet you.
Can you imagine? That's crazy. That's so hot.
Yeah, they
really
wish
is.
the temperature was 77.
Yeah, no kidding. It's going to be blazing out there on Sunday. It's going to be blazing on Friday night also. Besides being a great coach, though, John Calipari has been gold for both Cat fans and us in the media. We'll explain when we come back. Plus, the golden boy of the spring, California Chrome, is ready to race again. Tell you where and when next. After coming up short of finally breaking the streak of no Triple Crown winners in the Belmont Stakes, California Chrome is set to race again. According to bloodhorse.com, Chrome will hit the track on September 20th in the $1 million Pennsylvania Stakes, his only scheduled race before the Breeders' Cup in November. In his own endearing way, whenever we have a slow news day in sports, John Calipari always seems to stir the pot. He's like a magician. This afternoon, the coach who has led 3 schools to the Final Four and won UK its 8th national title was a guest on the Mike Francesa show in New York. After his appearance, Francesa proceeds to say he's not a good X and O coach. Well, Cal heard that and gave Mr. Francesa a call back.
I said, you are a master recruiter, which you are, a master motivator. And you said he's not. And I said you're not a great X's and O's coach, which you're not.
That's basically saying I can't coach.
Wait a second. Is there one facet?
You know what they call me? The magician. Cal the magician.
Wait a second.
That never gets old. Last month, the Bats held Star Wars night at the game, and quite frankly, it was awesome. So tonight, the Reds AAA affiliate hosted Zombie Night. This little guy may have been the cutest of the undead at the park. On the field, the Bats trailing Columbus 1-0 in the fourth when Felix Perez doubles to left, scoring Ruben Gotay from second. The Bats gave up 5 runs in the ninth, though, and fall 9-6. Same 2 teams tomorrow night. Spooky. When we come back, we'll hear how one of the best cornerbacks in Florida State history is helping out the Cards. Stay tuned. A big question heading into the season for U of L football is the defensive secondary. They lost one of the best safety combos in school history, meaning that more will be asked from the cornerbacks. And that's where this guy comes in. New cornerbacks coach Terrell Buckley is one of the best to ever play the position. If you don't believe me, look him up on YouTube. That's what junior corner Charles Gaines did, and he was blown away.
It's a blessing to just be with a coach that's been in the NFL for numerous years, and now he giving back what he learned from the college game. That's just awesome. And like I said, I turned on YouTube and I could really see the plays he made and things like that.
Touchdown Friday night kicks off tomorrow night. Among the games we will have highlights from the only defending state champion from our area this year, DeSales, taking on arch rival Holy Cross in the battle for the Hibernian Cup. The Colts say they love starting defense of their crown against their fierce rival.
And there's a lot of history behind the rivalry, and the series is tied right now, 15-15 going into this game. So I think there's a lot of I think there's going to be a lot of fire coming into Friday.
Tomorrow's going to be an exciting night. Me and you Together again.
Yeah, touchdown Friday night, and DeSale's going to be awesome. They got a lot of kids that maybe could have gone St. X Trinity, but they love playing there.
They're a lot younger this year than last year, but they have a talented group.
They are awesome.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right, of course, we'll have much more on Wave 3 Sunrise about the condition of the firefighters, especially Captain Tony Grider and how he's doing tonight at U of L Hospital as Louisville firefighters stay there on vigil, and we hope he gets better overnight.
We certainly do. We'll have updates for you on wave3.com. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.
Now, with Wave3.com and the Wave 3 News mobile app, you always have breaking news and breaking weather right where you are. Sponsored by Margaret's Moving and Storage, the people who make the right moves.